Hey, Kinsey, and welcome back to Remember What the Lord Has Done. Today, just two chapters in 14 and 15 for Leviticus today. Last time we were looking at food, at childbirth, regulations regarding diseases and mildew. And the good news is we get to talk more about mildew today. We'll also take a look at skin diseases and then bodily discharges. So I was just telling your mom it's one of my least favorite chapters in the Bible. It's just
But
something about it. But it's real. But it's real. So we're going to talk about it. And actually, there's some good stuff here that we'll talk about as well. But it's the Bible. It's all good. But you know what I mean. So we'll take a look at that again in 14 and 15 today. So Leviticus chapter 14. The Lord said to Moses, "These are the regulations for the diseased person at the time of his ceremonial cleansing, when he is brought to the priest. The priest is to go outside the camp and examine him. If the person has been healed of his infectious skin disease, the priest shall order that 2 live, clean birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be brought for the one to be cleansed. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be killed over fresh water in a clay pot. He is then to take the live bird and dip it, together with the cedar wood, the scarlet yarn, and hyssop, into the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. 7 times he shall sprinkle the one to be cleansed of the infectious disease, and pronounce him clean. Then he is to release the live bird in the open fields. The person to be cleansed must wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe with water. Then he will be ceremonially clean. After this he may come into the camp, but he must stay outside his tent for 7 days. On the 7th day he must shave off all his hair. He must shave his head, his beard, his eyebrows, and the rest of his hair. He must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day he must bring 2 male lambs and 1 ewe lamb a year old, each without defect, along with 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. The priest who pronounces him clean shall present both the one to be cleansed and his offerings before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Then the priest is to take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering, along with the log of oil. He shall then wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He is to slaughter the lamb in the holy place where the sin offering and the burnt offering are slaughtered. Like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is most holy. The priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The priest shall then take some of the log of oil and pour it in the palm of his own left hand, dip his right forefinger into the oil in his palm, and with his finger sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. The priest is to put some of the oil remaining in his palm on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on top of the blood of the guilt offering. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed, and make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest is to sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from his uncleanliness. After that, the priest shall slaughter the burnt offering and offer it on the altar, together with the grain offering, and make atonement for him, and he will be clean. If, however, he is poor and cannot afford these, he must take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved to make atonement for him, together with 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, and a log of oil, and two doves or 2 young pigeons, which he can afford, one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. On the 8th day he must bring them for his cleansing to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest is to take a lamb for the guilt offering, together with the log of oil, and wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He shall slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering, and take some of its blood and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The priest is to pour some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and with his right forefinger sprinkle some of the oil from his palm 7 times before the Lord. Some of the oil in his palm he is to put in the same places that he put the blood of the guilt offering, on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And the rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before the Lord. Then he shall sacrifice the doves, or the young pigeons, which the person can afford, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, together with a grain offering. In this way the priest shall make atonement before the Lord on behalf of the one to be cleansed. These are the regulations for anyone who has an infectious skin disease and who cannot afford the regular offerings for his cleansing. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your possession, and I put a spreading mildew in the house of that land, the owner of that house must go and tell the priest, 'I've seen something that looks like mildew in my house.' in my house. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes in to examine the mildew, so that nothing in the house will be pronounced unclean. After this, the priest is to go in and inspect the house. He is to examine the mildew on the walls, and if it is greenish or reddish depressions that appear to be deeper than the surface of the wall, the priest shall go out the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest shall return to inspect the house. If the mildew has spread on the walls, he is to order that the contaminated stones be torn out and thrown into an unclean place outside the town. He must have all the inside walls of the house scraped, and the material that is scraped off dumped into an unclean place outside the town. Then they are to take the other stones to replace these and take new clay and plaster the house. If the mildew reappears in the house after the stones have been torn down out of the house and scraped and plastered, the priest is to go and examine it. And if the mildew is spread in the house, it is a destructive mildew. The house is unclean. It must be torn down, its stones, timbers, and all the plaster, and taken out of the town to an unclean place. Anyone who goes into the house while it is closed up will be unclean till evening. Anyone who sleeps or eats in the house must wash his clothes. But if the priest comes to examine it, and the mildew is not spread after the house has been plastered, he shall pronounce the house clean, because the mildew is gone. To purify the house, he is to take 2 birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds over fresh water in a clay pot. Then he is to take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and the live bird, and dip them into the blood of the dead bird and the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall purify the house with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Then he is to release the live bird in the open fields outside the town. In this way he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. These are the regulations for any infectious skin disease, for an itch, for mildew in clothing or in a house, and for a swelling, a rash, or a bright spot, to determine when something is clean or unclean. These are the regulations for infectious skin diseases and mildew.
Chapter 15. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when any man has an unusual bodily discharge, such a discharge is unclean. Whether it continues flowing from his body or is blocked, it will make him unclean. This is how his discharge will bring about uncleanliness. Any bed the man with a discharge lies on will be unclean, and anything he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whoever sits on anything that the man with a discharge sat on must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whoever touches the man who has a discharge must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. If the man with the discharge spits on anyone who is unclean, they must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Everything the man sits on when writing will be unclean, and whoever touches any of the things that were under him will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up those things must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone the man with the discharge touches without rinsing his hands with water must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. A clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wooden article is to be rinsed with water. When a man is cleansed from the discharge, he is to count off 7 days for his ceremonial cleansing. He must wash his clothes and bathe himself with fresh water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day he must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord to the entrance to the tent of meeting and give them to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement before the Lord for the man because of his discharge. When a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his whole body with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Any clothing or leather that has semen on it must be washed with water, and it will be unclean till evening. When a man has sexual relations with a woman and there is an emission of semen, both of them must bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. When a woman has her regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean, and anything she sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches her bed will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who touches anything she sits on will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whether it is the bed or anything she was sitting on, when anyone touches it, they will be unclean till evening. Man, that's like a whole week out of a month.
Yeah.
She's just in seclusion.
Yeah.
If a man has sexual relations with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days. Any bed he lies on will be unclean. When a woman has a discharge of blood for many days at a time other than her monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as she has the discharge, just as the days of her period. Any bed she lies on while her discharge continues will be unclean, as is her bed during her monthly period, and anything she sits on will be unclean, as during her period. Anyone who touches them will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. When she is cleansed from her discharge, she must count off 7 days, and after that she will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day she must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest is to sacrifice one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement for her before the Lord for the uncleanliness of her discharge. You must keep the Israelites separate from things that make them unclean, so they will not die in their uncleanliness for defiling my dwelling place, which is among them. These are the regulations for a man with a discharge, for anyone made unclean by an emission of semen, for a woman in her monthly period, for a man or a woman with a discharge, and for a man who has sexual relations with a woman who is ceremonially unclean.
Well, I didn't find it in time, but I was looking for that. I've never thought about this other story in light of Leviticus 15 here, but that story when that woman who has been having been bleeding for years, and she touches the hem of Jesus's robe and she's healed. I've never thought about that before as far as an uncleanliness. Like, I've thought of oh, maybe it was painful or terribly inconvenient, but it's far beyond that. She's been seen as unclean, and I suppose most lepers would be too, but unclean for years. And then she just touches Jesus's robe. So that's really cool. I've never thought of that until you were reading it. I was like, I gotta go find that, and I didn't find it in time. But somewhere in the Gospels. It's somewhere in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and probably John as well. So I was like, well, the discharges and uncleanliness may seem like a gross subject, but the Israelites, I think I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, they don't know about bacteria and viruses. I mean, that's the same as you when you're trying to reach for your dirty diapers. That's something that I'm always, super gross. I'm always trying to be so quick with, and I'm pretty bacteria averse, so I'll sanitize my hands a couple times. But
your dad is a germaphobe.
I'm a bit of a germaphobe, massive germaphobe. So I always try and do that really quick. But whenever I am throwing one diaper away, and I'm reaching back to you, and you're either touching yourself or you've touched something gross, and I'm like, ugh, then I'm gonna get the sanitizer again and make sure that my hands are wet. I'll wipe your hands really quick, and then I'll try and get another wipe in there, and then get you all bundled up and all set. And you'll probably be fine. But I don't know. But you know nothing about that. You don't know anything about viruses or bacteria. So, you see this with kids all the time, that they touch something gross and then they touch their eye. And then all of a sudden, pink eye, or they have a cold or something really bad. And that's very true. I'm really thankful that you're not crawling as much, because when you're crawling, you're just crawling along the ground and picking up whatever people have on their feet. But the Israelites don't know this. They may know that, hey, I rinse my hands off when they're dirty from working outside, but once the dirt's gone, I'm good. And that's not necessarily true. So it's again cool to see these practical applications in here. But I don't know if there's anything else that. Other than that, you've just been mumbling a lot, and it feels like you're starting to tell stories, which is super cute. It's awesome. So anyway, worth praying about. You want to pray? You want me to?
You pray.
Okay. God, I thank you for Kinsey, and I thank you for her joy. God, I thank you for little moments when she can be touted around in a little wagon, Lord, or when she can find so much joy in picture books or in a laundry basket, God. You have given her so much joy, God, and she doesn't know about the bad things of this world, Lord, but as she grows up and as she continues to find out about them, Lord, may she find safety in your word, and may she find regulation in your word, Lord, that she knows that she can come to you no matter how bad things get, no matter how she feels about herself, no matter how clean or dirty she feels, no matter how dark the situation may be, God, for all the dirtiness and all the terribleness of this world, Lord, let her see that you created it and that there is very, very good things in it, God, and that she can come to you because you are the very best thing, God. You are our creator, and we thank you so, so much for all your provision, Lord. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, Kinsey, we love you tons. We appreciate you. We will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.